Hey, Mark, what's going on, man? How's everything going?
Good. Welcome. Your Time, Your Money, the show where your time is just as valuable as your money, and we know that. We want to thank our listeners and our viewers for tuning in consistently over the weeks. And obviously, our best episodes, I think, are the most exciting are when we have guest speakers, and that's where we're at today.
We are blessed. We are blessed today to have a wonderful guest speaker.
Yeah, so without further ado, let me introduce our guest speaker. So Jane-Marie Schaeffer comes from Herzog Law, and Herzog Law has been in the actually Capital District for almost 75 years. I think this is their 75th anniversary, so we're excited to have them here. But she's worked in the area of estate law, tax planning, elder law, servicing not just the Capital Region, Hudson Valley, Berkshires. She's actually out past me, Massachusetts area, so not too much of a Boston accent or anything like that.
Didn't realize she was in Boston for a little while, and then I realized, oh my God, you're in Boston. Like, where's the Beantown accent?
Over 20 years in the industry. She started when she was 16, so over 20 years in the industry. Actually serves on the board of directors for the Consumer Directed Choices of Albany, New York, which is basically a nonprofit that deals with independent individuals with disabilities, which I think is phenomenal. It's always good to give back to the community, and you know, we do a lot with the Northeast Kidney Foundation and other nonprofits. So we encourage our clients to be involved with professionals that work with other nonprofits. She received her Juris Doctorate from St. John's University in Jamaica, New York, and her BA from New York University in New York, and she actually is able to practice in both New York and Massachusetts. So
it's a big client base, man. I mean, you know, that's a huge span of surface, you know.
Yeah, it's Boston Red Sox and Yankee rivalry right there across the net. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show. Today's topic we're going to cover is estate planning. Yeah. And, I know a lot of our other episodes have, kind of touched on it a little bit. We talk about estate planning towards the tail end of retirement income planning or the other kind of important stages of life. But we want to really delve into the basics of estate planning. What a client should be doing, how often and what should they be looking for within their investments and how that money's going to transfer. Sure. And, most importantly, how to work with an attorney.
Well, I mean, I think it's important, but I think we got to get it started the right way. I guess it's time for us to flip the old hourglass.
It's time. It's your
time. And your money. We've been fixing it up. I like it.
I was wondering if that was going to go flipped.
This is actually really fun tchotchke. I enjoy using it. But no, I mean, Mark, you said it perfect, right? So as people start to work with an attorney, Jane-Marie, I want to make sure everyone out there understands that it doesn't just happen magically, right? When you get connected with an attorney, usually it's because you know somebody. And, we haven't really delved into the relationship thing yet, but most importantly, whoever you're working with as an attorney, and I want you to kind of vet this, right? You should probably know the person that referred you to the attorney, because it's not like just the relationship appears. It's not like a genie out of a bottle, right? So when you start to work with people, like what's usually the hardest or the most important thing that you have to get done with them first, right? You tell me, because I'm not sure.
Yeah. So I think in estate planning, the hardest thing is getting them used to discuss the estate planning, right?
Got it.
Because you're thinking of all the horrible what ifs,
Sure.
But you have to get past that and realize we're going to talk about these things, but after you're done, you're going to have peace of mind. Right, because you've got all your documents in order, and you're not going to worry about it.
There's got to be a comfort zone, too, that comes with that. Because, I mean, I'm not just going to go talk with somebody about this really intimate details about my life and not expect something to come back from it, right? I mean, it's hard to talk about this stuff. So I just want to make sure, as our listeners start to watch, and because I've gotten some great questions back, we get a lot of feedback from people that listen. Usually the first question that we get back is, how do you get connected? Like, how do you get connected to a really good estate planner, right? And I want you to really speak on that, because not everyone is a great estate planner. And Jane-Marie, you're fantastic, and there's a reason why you're here. But I really want you to talk about that connection point when you meet with clients. What's usually the most important hurdle when you start that first meeting? I want you to.
So in terms of the connections, most people are going to be referred by other clients.
Yes.
So that's the connection. So they can vouch for you, right?
Yeah.
She's okay. She did a good job. She wasn't scary,
Word of mouth is best.
Well, a lot of times too, when you refer on to other professional, the advisor or whoever is referring on, the CPA or whatever, doesn't usually go the next step to make sure that the person called.
They actually connected, right?
You know,
Right.
and that key time of connection is important because, you know, other planners, ourselves or CPAs
Yeah.
will refer on, but they'll refer on with a business card.
Right. Here you go. Here's a card, right? You know, good luck.
There's not communication. There's not a, hey, did they call you? Hey, by the way, or did they schedule a time or whatever? And I think that's where our firms work together very nicely because we can refer on, but we can also follow up because there's a lot of things that we both do.
That's right.
The continuity here is important for everyone to understand that, you know, when you trust somebody, and this is a big thing, I want to make sure I really make a big explanation point. When you trust somebody, and you're able to say, hey, listen, I know your process is great, whether that be with your diet, with your workout, with your financial plan, whatever it is, your estate plan. The thing I can tell you is that I trust Jane-Marie. And I love sending people to her because of the fact I know her process is great.
So,
Our process is very similar.
right.
The way we gather information, get to know the family, get to know your goals, right? So we're not just giving you something that's cookie cutter.
Yeah, and I think
Right.
some of the fear, right, we come back to that all the
Oh,
time,
fear,
but some of the
right?
fear for a client is they're going to go talk to an attorney, which, you know, no offense, the word attorney
Scary word sometimes.
it's Scares
brings
people.
in some intimidation
It does.
and some uncertainty. And, you know, it's important that listeners realize that an attorney is there to help you. You know,
Right.
and the only good things come by meeting with an attorney that's going to be on your side.
Absolutely.
You know, so let's delve a little bit into the estate planning process.
Sure.
We refer to it very often with clients as, you know, when you go to an estate planning attorney, you want to get your core four, so to speak.
Yep.
You know, we want to get some basic documents, but then there's progression as people need other things through trust and stuff. So let's start with the core four. Let's identify them and you know, maybe talk a little bit about why they need to be reviewed or how they should be structured. And you know, I think the first one on there that everybody relates to an estate plan is a will.
Absolutely, right.
You know, can you speak a little bit about, you know, kind of what should people be looking for? Maybe they already have a will, but it was done 15, 20 years
That's normally
ago.
the comment again. Oh, I got a will. I'm good.
Right.
I'm like, well, maybe you should let Jane-Marie look at it. You know?
Well, and they think that's the whole estate plan.
Right. That's it. We're done.
That's right. The most common thing I get is I have a will, but I did it when my kids were born. And now your kids are married or grown up, right? And you haven't updated your will. So you need to review your estate plan at certain major milestones in your life.
Right.
So if you were, and not many people do it, you know, when they're young, but if you did do it when you're young, you need to review it again.
What would you say like the normal timeline is? Like if I did a will, I mean, how often should I coming back and saying, hey, what should I update? What would you say would be a good like litmus?
We recommend people to come in every 5 years or so, unless
Gotcha.
there's a major life change in between.
Yeah, so
Okay.
let's point those out for clients, right? Birth of a child,
Right.
death of a child, right? Maybe a transition of family, right? Maybe it's their parents moved in with them,
Right.
or there's a care need there, or something along that lines.
Well, I always like to refer back. Let's do a horror story, right? I mean, can you share a story from your experience that something wasn't updated and it went awry? I mean, I'd love to hear a shared experience because I think that's what people connect to. I think that's the listener. They're dying for that story, you know? So do you have a crazy one that you could share?
Oh, absolutely. There's tons to pick from. But I mean, so one thing, when you get divorced, update your will,
Oh, boy.
update your beneficiary designations.
Oh, boy.
Right? That's something that people don't think about. You're probably all wrapped up in the divorce, so you're not thinking about your estate planning.
Oh, my God. Okay.
And that's happened a couple times where those were not updated, and now we're having problems with the company who still has the wife as the beneficiary. And we're trying to show they're divorced or the will says it goes somewhere else, and that's not a fight that you want to be in, right?
Okay. So it gets it could get ugly.
It
That
can
could
get
be
ugly.
a big mess.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I know we've talked about it before where if something changes, you probably got to update it. You got to get back to it and don't forget about the follow-up, right? Yeah. So
Well,
always
let's,
an
you know, I
important piece.
think what's good too is maybe understand exactly what the will is and why it's important.
Okay.
Like you know, people hear about it or they hear their role, right? Executives of the estate
What is my
you know,
job? What is it? So
Yeah, so can you break that down a
Yeah,
little
sure.
bit? So
Yeah, sure. So the will is where you direct who's going to get your assets when you're gone. So you would think it's, if you don't have a will, it's straightforward. So this is misconception number one, right? If you're married, wouldn't you think that I would get all of Michael's assets, right?
sure.
Right. I wouldn't. The intestate laws, so let me break that. Intestate is if you die without a will. The intestate laws in New York say that half would go to my husband, half would go to my kids.
Oh.
So my 20 and 22-year-old kids who are in college would have half the money, and Michael would be left with the other half.
Or potentially 2-year-old.
Or a 2-year-old, just even
So
crazier.
which means now we have to go get guardianship, right?
Right, that's
So
right.
that because they're still a minor.
Right. And not only that, you would probably want to leave everything to your spouse to live on. Right. So
Yeah.
So that's your basic will just overcomes that presumption. And we call those I love you wills. That's the most basic will. It's everything to my spouse and then to my children.
Got it. So it
just
creates a
that
little bit of
simple will-
direction.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Now, a lot of times when you see a will done, from our end, when we talk to a client, they think that takes precedence over, say, beneficiaries, and they don't need to put beneficiaries on account. And we see that very often,
Yeah.
that they think,
Yeah.
well, my will says they get everything. And we
Right.
try to encourage them, like, hey, have the beneficiaries on there
Right.
to maybe coincide with your will, because on our end, if they don't have the beneficiary, then that's even more work for them to get the money
Right,
than
then-
just a direct beneficiary.
Sure.
Yeah. So when I review a will or go over a will with the client, I always check their beneficiary designations. So you have to make everything coordinate. And that's another time where people forget. So they may have gotten a job before they were married. And maybe their 401k has their parents as their beneficiary.
Oh, okay. And their parents might be deceased
They
already.
may be deceased, but they didn't remember to update it when
So
they got married.
Walk me through that, right? I'm working, I have a 401k, right? And this is a normal average American. My parents are one out because I wasn't married yet. My parents are gone, and I haven't updated it.
Right.
And now I go, but I'm married. What happens?
We have to do a probate proceeding because it's going to go to your estate.
Oh my God! So it
And then
becomes
it's going to go to half to your spouse, half to your kids, unless you had a will,
So I had $500,000 in my 401k.
right?
I passed away, and the Bennies were already deceased. I'm my beneficiary for my 401k.
That's right.
So now there's a whole process. So
The whole process.
my
takes work.
spouse doesn't have access to those funds. She can't just go get them.
No, not at all. Not right away.
That's you said that's a big miss.
And versus a maybe 7 to 10 day transfer, otherwise, probate's a fairly longer process,
Oh,
correct?
it could be 7 months easily.
Oh my God!
Yeah, so imagine your bills are coming into your household. You
Right.
need to get the money.
That's right.
7 months are ticking by, and every month, bill. It's got to come from somewhere,
That's right.
you know. And if they can't get that asset, that could pose a really big problem.
we have to be able to adapt, right? That's the truth. Is as listeners hear us talk, adaptation and the be able to overcome these scenarios create the need to have more information.
Right.
So for someone sitting there and listening and saying, okay, well, I'm good. Well, we got to play the chess game here, right? What may happen? What potentially could happen, right? Because I know you do more than just estate planning.
Right.
There's trust planning, revocable and irrevocable. So I just want to make sure that people understand, yes, we're talking about a small fragment here of the big picture, but there's a lot more to do.
So within that core 4, right? We touched on will.
Yep.
Probably the next, I guess you would say, most important on our end from the financial world is something called a POA, or power of attorney.
Right.
Yep.
You want to explain a little bit about what that does and why that's important?
Yeah, so that's important. So what if, my husband gets dementia, right? And suddenly I need to start taking over. I need to talk to you to get money out of his retirement plan, or I need to call his health insurance company to question the bill. They won't talk to me, right? Even though I'm married and I'm his spouse, legally they're not going to talk to me.
Yeah, and we can't either. I mean,
Right.
if there's
Right.
an individual asset
Right.
and there's no power of attorney on file, if a spouse calls us, we can't tell them about their spouse's account.
Right. So you have to have that power of attorney and you need to have it before the incapacity happens. So you need to do it while you're well, while you're healthy. Sign it, appoint your spouse, and now that's gonna, be good.
And some of the other things I hear when I'm on an appointment is, well, when I die, I have when my father dies, I have power of attorney of my father.
Oh, that's another
Right.
one, right?
Is that like a loophole? There's a bug there?
There's a bug there. Power of attorney ends on death.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, how can you
Yeah.
represent somebody they're not?
They're not alive, right?
Right, when you
That's
think
right.
about it.
Common mistake. But a lot of listeners out there, we try to
Yeah.
keep it basic. When they say, "I got a POA," that's they think it's
Yeah.
good forever.
Yeah, it's not. So that ends, and now if you were using that bank account to pay bills, now that's cut off because that account's frozen.
It's gonna freeze.
Yeah, and as a side note, I encourage clients that when they get the POA, they should send it to all their financial institutions.
That's a good idea.
Because there's a little bit of a conflict there. You know, the power of attorney, right, is good for New York State. It's technically supposed to be good by everybody. But then you have a financial industry that has to do their due diligence to make sure it's still in force.
Right.
That's right.
So there's a lot of problems when a client walks in when somebody's incapacitated with the POA in hand that we've never seen before and says, I need to conduct these transactions.
Right.
Right? Because we have to go and say, well, is it still in force? Was it revoked? Was it removed? And if they didn't have it on file already, which is a fairly simple process, just providing a photocopy,
Right.
then it creates some tension because the client's like, well, I don't understand why the attorney told me I have a POA and you're supposed to act on it. And we're like, well, our industry says, no, we have to make sure it's still in force.
Right. You have to make sure. So there's another affidavit that you sign to say it's in full force and effect, but that's another layer that you have to put on there. Many times there'll be children of the elderly parents with differing powers of attorney.
So they did them at different times.
Or no, to tell them to do different things, you mean?
No. I mean children like, okay, I'm taking mom to the lawyer to get a power of attorney. And now
Right.
the
Like,
other kid
the other kid brings them over,
takes
so
mom.
mine's outdated now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I could see that happening.
So that happens.
That's kinda wild.
Right. That can be.
Yeah. And now within power of attorney, you can have, correct me if I'm wrong, multiple that work together or work separate.
Yep, you can appoint co-agents. You can appoint agents in succession. If you appoint co-agents, I always recommend separately if you trust them. If they have to act together, now you need 2 signatures on everything.
Yeah.
And now that's more paperwork.
That's going to be a lot harder sometimes.
It's going to be a lot harder.
Yeah.
Okay.
So very, very important document. For listeners, viewers that don't have it, definitely want to get some type of power of attorney to protect yourself. 'Cause I think there's actually probably more uses for power of attorney than most other documents while somebody's living.
As people are listening to this, hopefully they're probably Googling this stuff right as they're listening, right? Because they're opening another tab and they're going, hey, I can do this on my own.
Is a lot of
That's what
times
I was thinking of.
You're leading me right into it, Mark. I can't help but open the door, like I'm going to go to LegalZoom. I'm going to go to truewill.com and I'm just going to do this on my own. Jane-Marie, and I know, Mark, you got another thing, but I want you to debrief the people out there that do that. What are some of the mistakes they make when they do that? Have you seen those before?
I have. So especially for the power of attorney, New York has a statutory form that you're required to follow. They just updated it last June.
Okay.
If you go online and search power of attorney, you may get a generic power of attorney.
So it may not be legal even in the state.
You may get a different states. So unless you have the New York one, and unless you have the current version, it's not valid.
Wow.
Well, that could be a big,
Well, I mean,
big issue.
again, I always make the analogy, right? I broke my arm. My arm's broken. What would I do, Jane-Marie? Where would I go? Would I go over to the car repair shop and get my arm checked? Right? No, I would go to the hospital because I need to get looked at by a doctor.
Well, or if you
You know?
saw my husband, he'd put duct tape on it. So
Right, just duct tape it. You're
Duct
fine.
tape
Rub
it,
some
yeah,
dirt
so
on it.
that's
You're okay.
right.
The bone's sticking out. You're fine. You're okay.
So we've covered will. So for your assets when you pass away, we've covered power of attorney for
Yep.
incapacitation. The next one that obviously clients want to build into that core 4, so to speak, or that base 4 is your healthcare proxy. And this is something where it doesn't, I don't think, matter what age you are, you want to have a healthcare proxy on
sure.
you. I mean, especially if you have children, especially if you
That's
have,
right.
you travel a lot or whatever it might be. Can you speak a little bit about the healthcare proxy? And
Yeah, sure. The healthcare proxy, it's an essential piece of this. If you're doing the power of attorney, you should always do a healthcare proxy. It's the same idea. It could be the same people that you're appointing. You need someone to be in charge of medical decisions if you can't make them.
I mean, it's huge. It's a major miss, right?
Yeah. So Matt and I are siblings.
Right. Mark's my brother.
We have a healthcare
Okay.
proxy on our parents.
Right.
Should we both be on that healthcare proxy?
New York only lets you put one person at a time.
Oh, okay.
So it could
I could
be-
be for my mom and he could be for dad.
That's right.
Got it.
Which makes sense, right? Because you might say pull the plug. I might say I don't want to
don't
pull the
That's
plug.
right.
And
No,
also-
you're sobbing.
6 months later,
We're still back and forth.
it's still back
I
and
guess
forth
that
on
makes
it.
sense.
Makes
you know.
sense, right? They don't want to wait for you guys to agree.
Yeah, and we encourage clients to travel with that, and some of the ways that clients can travel with it, at least in our system, which is nice, is we have a program called AdviceWorks.
Digital.
And it
great.
allows clients to upload in a digital format something that they can receive on their phone. Husband and wife, they're on vacation, they go in a medical facility.
It's a scary world. People are scared. People are scared of the digital world, right? Whether it be crypto or uploads or I have it on my email. It's a scary thing, and we fear what we don't understand. So what you said, Mark, is exactly what we're talking about. Is that this process might be new to somebody. So guess what? They don't understand it, so they're scared of it. They're fearful of it, you know?
But the convenience of having it online, because you don't have your healthcare proxy with you all the time.
Who carries one with them? Right.
Right, you don't.
I don't care.
But you always have your cell phone almost.
Always have your phone,
Always
right?
have your
You always
cell
got your
phone,
emojis on your phone, right? Like, yeah, I can put that one in, right?
Yeah. So will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy. And then another one that a lot of people haven't heard of is it's called DORA, but disposition of remains authority, I believe.
Disposition of remains appointment.
Appointment. Oh, it's close on that.
Mark, you're almost an attorney, buddy.
Almost.
Keep trying.
Only 700 more tries on the bar exam.
I just repeat what Jane-Marie says to me. I sound really smart, but that's as far as it goes with the attorney stuff.
So DORA is a nicer name anyway. The acronym is better.
I do want to tell people that are listening, though, this process has been for me personally, has been very enlightening, because before I started to work with Jane-Marie, I didn't really have a process for how I get people to the attorney. Now, legitimately, every appointment I start when I work with a client, I start with Jane-Marie. And I say, this is my process. You should have this before anything, because as a fiduciary, just like you, we got to look out for the best interests. And if you do a full financial plan, but don't do the estate plan, well, then you're not looking out for the whole plan. You're only looking out for a small piece. I mean, it's a big miss. I want people to understand that,
Well, that, and also what's important is good communication between the professions.
That's key.
Right? I mean, even us being on an appointment or calling, yourselves, your firm, beforehand, and giving an overview of what the client's trying to accomplish with the investments, and because you can refer on, like I said, but procrastination, the big P, really destroys
I'll do it later.
the estate plan.
I'll do it later. I'll figure it out at another time,
Yeah, and time is of the essence, especially as we get into the second part of our show when we start talking about some other types of planning.
Sure.
But right now we have a great time. It's Community Spotlight time.
It's my favorite time.
And you know what? This week's Community Spotlight is a personal favorite of mine. Obviously, I eat my vegetables. I'm very much a little human being that never cheats on any of his meals. But Bellinopoli Bakery, one of my favorites. And here's the bottom line. These guys are phenomenal. And Dom is a fantastic guy. He's a friend. He has donated more product and more items to myself and like programs I work with, whether it be football programs or wrestling programs. They do catering, they do everything. They have everything there. I go to the Latham location. There's a location in Troy. I'll give you the number for the Latham location, 518-783-0196, 672 Loudon Road. Literally cake, cookies, donuts, I mean, everything.
Don't forget
the cannolis.
Turnovers.
Maroon. So, I just, it's this bakery, guys, it is first class. And I want to put it out there. I want to give them as much shout out as I can, because, again, it's not just about their product. It's about the relationship to the community. And I've been jammed up before where I'm going to a wrestling tournament. And if you know me, I'm a big wrestling guy. I love wrestling, not fake wrestling, real wrestling here, high school wrestling. And the wrestling tournament is out of food. Like, there's nothing. And literally show up the day of, hey, Dom, I need, he comes out 2 big trays, bagels, croissants. Take them, Matt. Just go. Bring them to the tournament. Let the booster club. Oh, my God. Just please go to Bellinopoli. Phenomenal people.
Yeah, excellent.
Community
And easy to
Spotlight.
get to, too. So
Right down there. I'm going to
nice
stop on the way
location
home,
over
actually,
there.
get some cannolis. Thanks a lot, Jane-Marie.
Cannolis.
Now I'm going to rub it right where I want it, right on my hips, man. Jeez Louise.
Excellent. So, so let's get into, kind of some more detail within the estate plan. And this is, these are things that people hear the word, but they don't understand. Revocable trust, irrevocable trust, what it is, how it works, the difference between the two. We find a lot of clients have a trust, but they don't know which one it is.
It sounds
Or
similar.
what's in it.
And when you ask them, it's like, we did it years ago, but,
They don't remember revocable or irrevocable. It sounds the same, right?
Yeah, so, maybe talk a little bit about that, the difference between the two, and, what's important for each.
Yeah, there's benefits to both trusts. Both trusts avoid probate, so that's one thing they have in common. So if you have a trust, you set up you sign a trust document, right? That's not the end. Now you have to go and transfer all your assets into the trust. So like the trust is this bucket, and you're putting your assets in. You put your house in there, you put your savings account, you put your investments. Now when you die, the trustee takes those assets and gives it to your beneficiaries. No court involved, no probate. And it happens very quickly.
Yeah, so key point to that, which we've brought up in other shows, is that just because you have the trust doesn't mean there's anything in it.
That's right.
So how many people would you say? And again, this is for listeners. This may be a little bit of information that's coming over the dam here. When you create a trust, does that mean everything just goes in it automatically?
No,
Oh, so you have to physically put stuff in it.
you do. So
Okay.
you have to go to your financial advisor and bring the trust, and then ask them to change the ownership on your accounts.
Yeah, and on our end, when they get their statement, it no longer reads Jim Smith. It reads now the Smith family irrevocable trust.
Right.
It still has the same address,
Right.
same investment, same everything in there. But until you start seeing those changes happen, there's nothing's been added.
Well, I mean, like, let's do a real world here, Jane-Marie. I mean, my mom, let's say, is 85 years old and has $1 million in between her investments, bank accounts, and home. And now she's not doing so good on her health.
Okay.
And this is when the question arises, right? As listeners are like, why do I need a trust? It's stupid, right? I'm 25. I don't need a trust.
Right.
Well, you may not need a trust, but your parents might need one,
That's right.
right? So my mom's about to go into a nursing home, right?
Right.
What's going to happen if I don't have a trust? You tell me.
If you don't have a trust, she's going to have to spend down all of her assets.
Oh, wow.
And the nursing home costs $15,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to be spending that down really quickly.
Not an easy bill.
Yeah.
So
not
wait, my
easy
mom
now.
just can't give me the money? Here you go, Matt. You can have all the money. You're good. I'm going to give you a house. I'm going to give you my bank accounts, right?
She can. If she gifts anything at that moment, she's penalized, they call it. She gets a penalty period.
Oh, my God.
So Medicaid won't pay for her because of the gift she's made to you.
Oh, so all this money has to come out of pocket.
All this money is out of pocket, and she saved this her whole life, right?
Right.
She wants to pass it down to you or to her grandkids.
Got it. So it becomes kind of like this domino effect that she might go to her nursing home and she might have to spend $15,000 or $20,000 a month.
Right.
She might be there for what, 36 months?
That's not unusual. Right.
So what's that math? That's $600,000. It just gets evaporated.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's something that you can't literally move everything in the day before you go in a nursing home, right?
can't
Because
do the
everybody
last
would be
minute.
doing that, right?
Right.
That's right.
Like, oh, I'm going to a nursing home tomorrow. Let me go down to Herzog, get the trust, and move everything in.
But you know, sometimes people make the argument, well, I'm not going to go to a nursing home. I'm not going to go. I'm going to chain me up in the basement, right? So what's a scenario where someone is forced to go?
Well, let's
sorry, I'm
take a step
too
back
far
from
ahead.
that,
Okay.
for a listener to understand, right? Because we get that a lot. We get
I'm not going to go to a nursing home.
right.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Now imagine you are so physically disabled
Yeah.
I have a
that,
stroke.
that you require your kids who may be 160 pounds, not like Matt.
I was
Lord.
just going to
That-
go with Matt.
No, it's okay. You can beat me up a
You know
little
what I
bit.
mean?
So Matt's has, I don't know, you broke your hip. Or,
I broke my hip, right? I'm
Right.
85 years old and I
yeah,
broke my
there's
hip.
the opposite
Yeah.
way.
Right.
Now he's gonna say, "I'm not going to go to a nursing home.
I'm not going to a
I'm
nursing home."
I'm the spouse, and I'm going to say,
And you're-
"There's no way I'm
I
lifting
can't
him
lift
into
you.
bed."
There's no way I can move you.
Oh, okay. So
That's
now I
right.
have to go to a nursing
Yeah.
home.
Right.
Because I need round the clock care.
Right, she can't move you. If you fall, you'd be on the floor.
Yeah, and on a serious note, right? The hardest part is ever picturing a loved one going into a nursing home, right? Because we all agree it's the last thing we want to have happen to a loved one.
Right.
But the reality is that it happens because either one, financially, two, physically, you can't take
It's the
care
level
of
of
them.
care.
You know,
They have to be on oxygen.
And then
you know,
for some, and you alluded to it earlier with dementia and Alzheimer's, you know, they call it the long goodbye. It's very hard to live with a person that has those in some situations.
That's right.
And you know, it's the reality of the world that you may need to put them in care for your own sanity, for
Right.
you know, whatever it might be. But if you don't have that trust, being the irrevocable trust,
That's right. Or the trust of your caregiver.
or the trust
Right.
of your caregiver, you know, that's hard to plan for that.
Right. So the
So-
only way to safely plan for that is to do the trust, but you need to do it in advance.
Right.
About how many years is that?
That's what I wanted to know. Like if I'm listening right now and I know my parents are in their 60s or 70s and there's significant assets, what's our timeline?
5 years.
Okay.
So there's a 5-year look back period right now for Medicaid.
So that means that wherever we want to get into the trust, we got to do within after 5 years. It's safe.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
And now for listeners that are maybe in their 80s, right, who may say, listen, I don't buy green bananas because
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
Right. A lot of times we'll get, well, I'm 80, so I'm not going to last the 5 years.
Oh, come on. People live to 100.
Yeah,
I
right.
have so many clients in their 90s that are good and healthy. So
Yeah.
why take the risk?
Yeah, right. I mean, because if you run that law of averages, chances are they're going to last the 5 years.
Right.
on
Right.
on
That's right.
average. You know,
I think maybe more than anything, guys, like it's kind of a build-up effect, right? So let's say we're in our 60s and we come to you and we do our trust,
That's a great time to do it.
right? And then we can slowly start to add things to it. The house,
Right.
a life insurance policy, money from savings, right?
yeah, perfect point is slowly start adding. A lot of people think it's all or none.
I gotta go all of it right
I
now.
got to trust.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
right.
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna give
put
up
all
all the
my money in
control.
it. You know.
People say I can't control my checking account, right? I'm like,
Right.
no, we're never putting your checking account in the
Yeah.
trust.
So,
Right.
so here's
What are you living
here's
on?
a creative idea. Why don't you harvest your returns when the market goes up and move just the returns in?
Sure.
Or you slowly dollar cost average in with your assets, right?
I mean,
Or people don't need their RMDs.
right.
Right.
What do I do with my
So
RMDs,
they
which
put
is
their RMD in the trust
another?
every
I mean,
year.
we talked about LERP planning a few weeks back, or having another tool to use.
Life
but,
insurance, yeah.
Right. Like, but I want people to understand, like, there are benefits of putting certain assets in trust, but there's also not a lot of benefit of. You wouldn't put an IRA in a trust.
Right.
Because an IRA is protected from Medicare, I believe,
Medicaid.
or
yeah.
Medicaid. I'm sorry.
See, you got
That's
it wrong.
why you're
I
here,
know,
right?
that's
Like, yeah, I don't know. Here's
So
why
all our
you're here.
clients go. So let me just. So Medicaid and Medicare. So Medicare is health insurance that you get after you turn age 65. Medicaid, that's the long-term care program that's going to pay for your nursing home,
Okay.
and you have to be financially eligible for that.
So I'm 85, I need Medicaid,
Right.
but I have $1 million in my name. Am I going to be eligible?
Not not right away.
So I got to spend that money.
You got to spend all that money down to $16,000, and then Medicaid will pay for you.
So there's the hook right there. Everyone that's listening, as I get older, I should be doing something with the dollars other than let them sitting in my checking account.
Right.
Right.
Well, and there's sometimes misconception that when I move my money into the trust, I give up everything on it. I give up control.
Yeah, that's
I give
right.
up, how can I use it? I can't get to it. I can't draw income off of it. I mean, like, people don't understand what happens when it goes in there. So let's talk a little bit about that, right? You're assigning a trustee
Right.
to the account.
Sure. So even though the trust we're talking about for Medicaid is the irrevocable trust. So the irrevocable trust, it means you're not in control of it, but you get to pick a trustee to be in control. Most likely it's going to be one of your children.
Son or daughter or both.
Right. Now if you put your home in the trust, no change, right? You still live in your home. So that's an easy one, right? If you put investments in the trust says you get all the income earned by the investments. So those come out to you. Now let's say you put your investments in and you're fine, you're living on the income, but now you need a new roof, right? $20,000. There's still a way you could get that money out of the trust. So your trustee and your beneficiaries, they all agree, they sign a document, and then it's called a partial revocation of trust. That's getting in the weeds, but you can get that money back out.
Okay.
So not as scary as it sounds.
Yeah, I
when
mean,
you-
it seems like it's a little more seamless and it's a little easier. It does take time to set up, though.
It does. Right.
What was your normal turnaround time, would you say, Jane-Marie, on creating a trust, getting it funded, everything is where it needs to be? What would you say a good timeline for someone would be?
I would say 8 weeks, just to be, yeah.
So if I want to create a trust today, right, I want to give
Right.
people an accurate description.
Right.
I'm going to come into Jane-Marie and we're going to talk about it, and it's going to take me time to process
That's right.
what the process is, how much it costs, all this other stuff. Then I sign it. Then it's 8 weeks from then. I can probably start putting stuff in it.
Right.
Yep.
Okay.
And the first meetings that get to know you,
That's
tell
right.
us what you have going on, what are your intentions?
This is important. You just said that. Okay, Mark. This is why I send people to Jane-Marie. I met a lot of attorneys in the first couple of years of this business, and everyone was the same answer. The first meeting is $1,000. The first meeting is $2,000. You walk in, you punch the clock, right? And anybody out there that's been divorced before knows you send an email, it's a $500 bill. Okay. The one thing I love about Jane-Marie's practice, similar to us, is that when you sit down with her, there's no risk. You don't pay anything.
No fee for a
You
consultation.
just sit down and talk, and you're open and honest.
Right, we're just getting to know each other.
You
and
know?
if you're not comfortable, that's fine, But
It's crazy. I do have a great story in the sense that I met with a client about 2 months ago, and I said I have a great attorney I work with, and the first question they asked, how much does she cost?
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost me? And I was very happy to respond. It doesn't cost anything to sit down because we have a common goal,
right.
which is to help, right? So I just thought it was important, and that you had said that, so it just made me think about it.
Yeah, exactly. And within that irrevocable trust world, another concept I think that we should bring up before we close out the show is there are some things you can do in there for children with disabilities.
Oh man, it's a big
that,
piece.
that you really need to understand, because there's a lot of households where there's somebody that has some special needs, that they have a disability, or they have a concern about that person managing finance or caring for themselves later down the road. What nuances can you use with an irrevocable trust, and how can you set that up maybe to help those families
or a
out?
special needs trust, whatever it may be.
Yep.
Yeah, sure. So you can set up trusts for your beneficiaries in your trust. And you're going to do that if it's someone who's special needs, or if you have young children like you both do. You don't want your kids to get their money at 18, right?
Well, I know what you would have done with it at 18. I
Oh
would
my
probably the same
God.
thing I would have done.
Well, I remember when I first started with you, you had said someone's kid at 18 got
They did.
$800,000.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, as an 18-year-old getting that kind of money, no one can stop you.
That's
if
right.
If it's not written down somewhere, and your only child is 18, and your whole asset is worth.
They suddenly have everything.
They have $800,000. I'm
Right.
guessing that most of those situations don't work out too well.
No, they don't.
I mean, like seriously. So, I mean, Mark, you asked a great question. So, what would the process be on a special needs trust for a child that is disabled or has a cognitive disability?
Yeah, so you just, so for special needs trust, you pick a trustee, the money stays in trust for that child. But the important thing with the special needs is that it doesn't affect their government benefits.
Okay.
So they keep all the benefits, all the programs that they're enrolled in, they get to keep that. The money in the special needs trust is for extros.
Gotcha. So if they need extra care, or if they
Right.
need a driver, or whatever the case
They
may
want to
be.
go, they get TV, they need a computer, all those extras that they wouldn't get.
Yeah, and a good planning concept of that is a lot of times people sacrifice their retirement because they're trying to preserve that asset for the special needs person, right?
Right.
And they don't think outside the box and say, all right, well, what if I just carved off a small part of my income and had life insurance in that trust, and had the life insurance fund it?
Yep.
So I still have my asset for me to live off of while I'm living, but I know when I pass away that it's fully funded
That's right.
by a small portion of my retirement income coming in. And a lot of times it's like, well, I know I have to leave this behind.
Mark, you
and
just
I have
said
to do
that
this.
so fast. I mean, like, really, like, say that one more time, and just, I want you to highlight, because what you said is literally the perfect way to do it. But people listening, I want you to say it one more time.
Yeah, so people will sacrifice the things they do today to leave money behind in a irrevocable for a special needs person.
Yep.
They won't enjoy retirement to the 10th degree. They'll sacrifice, they won't go on the trips and stuff because they're concerned about leaving money behind in a trust.
Sure.
What they can do in a more efficient way is just take part of their income, redirect it to as a monthly premium or an annual premium on a life insurance, put that in the irrevocable, so when you pass,
Everything
the
goes.
lump sum goes in
Right.
tax-free and now funds it.
Yep.
But what does that do? That frees up their principal, it frees up more income for them to enjoy, right, while they're living.
It's a great planning concept, and I hope everyone understands what you just said. That's why I wanted you to repeat it. Jane-Marie, just do a flyover for me. When you do an estate plan, just do a flyover so everyone out there kind of knows what to expect. What are some like basic words they should know for estate plan? Like beneficiary,
So, okay, yeah,
like
it's a
grant,
whole-
like
there's a whole lingo
guardian.
there,
Yeah,
right.
Just give me some lingo.
So it's actually, we give you a little sheet. So you need to pick out an executor,
Okay.
a trustee, a power of attorney, and a healthcare proxy.
Okay.
So your executor is the person in charge of your will. So they're the one who pays off your bills, sells your house, gathers up all your money, and distributes it to the beneficiaries.
Okay.
Gives that family portrait to the person that's supposed to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Sometimes
The
it's a
family portrait.
thankless job.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, because you're handing stuff out, right?
That's right.
Okay.
You're doing the estate sale. You're talking to realtors, right?
Okay. And then what about on the trust side? What are some of the verbs that I should be, some of the things I should be learning
So there's
about
the
with
trustee, and the trustee's job is similar to the executor, right? It's just you're in charge of the trust.
that? Okay.
We'll talk. You may hear grantor or settlor. That's you. That's the person who sets
Person
up the
funding
trust.
the trust.
That's
Okay.
right. And then beneficiary. So that's who's going to get that after you.
And within a
Pass
trust,
away.
just so everyone hears it, so within a trust, it could be way more detailed. So my beneficiary might not get the asset until 25 years old,
Right.
or until 30, or until they've graduated college.
That's right.
Or if they wear pink sneakers.
Or if they, wait, what? Pink sneakers? I don't have those on right now, Mark.
Whatever you want to write in there, I guess you technically
You can be
could,
very
right?
specific in there.
But that's where
it.
we kind of the quotation is ruling from the grave,
Right.
right? And you've said that to me, like where someone does build up a great asset in their livelihood, they can kind of delegate it the way they want to.
Right, to a certain extent. you
Rather
can.
than an 18-year-old just getting $800,000
No way.
and go blowing it on an NFT, right? Like, I'm gonna buy a Bored Ape, you know?
Well, I think we did a great job today breaking down some very
Yeah.
complex topics, and ultimately we want to recap that for our listeners so that they know, kind of just the simple points to take away. So first thing you want to do, right, obviously, go to an attorney, get those 4 basic documents.
Wait, go back. Go to the right attorney.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
the important
Correct.
part.
Get those 4 basic documents, right? Will, power of attorney, healthcare proxy, and ADORA, right? You want at least the foundation to build off of.
Great foundation.
Right?
That's right.
Involve your advisor, preferably us, the Esli
Well,
group here.
if
since
it's
they're
not us,
investors.
that's okay. As long as you're
in the
doing big
conversation,
picture. Yeah.
and then move towards that planning concept with a revocable or an irrevocable trust, right?
That's right.
Outline your needs, outline your expectations, what you want to have happen, and as long as you're open and honest about that with all your professionals, they're going to work in a timely manner to make sure that that's taken care of for you.
And I do want to highlight that working with the team is really important.
Yeah.
So everyone has to be on the same page. If
Yeah.
we're doing a trust, your advisors need to know that you're doing the trust, and
mean-
you have to get the beneficiaries right.
Jane-Marie, you said it perfect. Say it one more time. Working with the team. You got it. Say it again one more time. I want everyone to hear it.
You have to work as a team.
It's critical because a lot of people out there, please, if you're listening, look at your statement. Look at the name on your statement, whether it be your attorney statement or your financial statement.
Yeah.
If it's a single individual, you have to question what happens if that person's not there. You have how many people at the law firm that you work with that are all attorneys, right? 6, 7, 8.
Yeah, that's right.
A ton. So if you're not there and they call,
Oh, they're going to get someone
they can
else.
get an answer.
Or the paralegals are great also.
I always challenge people on that because the world we live in, it's not a very savvy world for customer service. You call an 800 number and you're on hold for an hour, right? And, God bless people that are like staying on hold. I like to be able to call somebody and actually talk to them.
Well, that's the difference. Not to get too far into this with a Fidelity or a Vanguard. You're on an 800 number.
Yeah.
There's no one.
With nothing against that, you might
Right.
like calling an 800 number, but my preference is when I send someone to you, they're gonna get an answer.
you want a
Hey, how
person.
you doing? What's going on? Right? Like,
Live breathing person.
It's just, this is the world of 800 numbers, right? I feel like I'm in a Twilight Zone episode. Like every time I call somebody, it's hey, please hold for 45 minutes. Oh, we can call you back when it's your turn. Like
Well, the best is the
when they call me back, I forgot. I'm like, what did I call again? I don't even know.
AI technology on phones make it sounds like a real person now. And
That's
you're like,
annoying too, right?
it's again old school, and I trust Jane-Marie. I'll tell all of our listeners that I've been around a lot of people in this business, and not everyone is on the level, and she is. So I give a lot of credit to what she does, and I very much tell people that she's fantastic at her job. So
Well, thank you.
no
Yeah,
problem.
excellent having you today.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
We like to close out the show with a little minute by minute where we just ask some random off the wall
Yes,
questions
I
and things
love this
along
part.
that line.
Favorite
So-
part.
Jane-Marie, so like, what's your favorite hobby? I gotta know it. I'm gonna guess it. I'm gonna guess your favorite hobby. I'm gonna say it's like pickers, like thrifting, like finding really cool
Oh.
old stuff.
That would be my guess for Jane-Marie's hobby.
That is my husband's favorite hobby.
Darn it! Okay.
Close. I think my favorite hobby right now is painting.
Oh,
I just started painting during COVID.
Oh, nice.
New thing I picked up. I love it.
Portraits, not walls. Because I need some
I
renovations
can
at
listen
the
to
house.
that.
I'm just
I
saying.
can go down a real bad rabbit hole right now, but I'm not gonna. I'm not gonna go there.
Modern art is what I'm doing.
Okay.
Oh, wow, excellent.
I do. I'll segue here on you, like the painting piece. I always see people like poking holes in the paint buckets and like kind of throwing them on a string.
Oh yeah.
And they make all the crazy like patterns, but
Right.
I don't know much about art. You got me there.
I am
so.
doing sort of modern painting. It's kind of free
So,
flow.
so we'll be seeing some at the Herzog Law Firm when we come
Maybe.
in up
I'm
on the...
not ready to hang them up in the office, but I'm getting there.
Maybe we buy a piece and put it in underneath the Premier Client Group. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, excellent. So our listeners know when they go to see Jane-Marie, ask her what artwork's for sale as well.
And we'll be looking some art. Maybe we'll get an art dealer involved. This will be pretty cool.
Great. So, why don't you tell us, tell the listeners where they can find you,
Yep.
address, phone number, that type of contact info.
Yeah, so if you want to find us on the website, herzoglaw.com, or you can call us at 518-465-7581. We have 4 locations, so in Albany, in Clifton Park, in Saratoga, and down in Kingston.
It's awesome.
Awesome. Great to know. And as always, you can find the Esley Group at 43 British American Boulevard in Latham, 12110. And you can reach us on the phone at 800-222-3202. And as always, you can always find us at yourtimeyourmoney.net for your net worth. And, go on there. Obviously, we want you to subscribe. We want you to like. It helps us out and also keeps you up to date of these quality shows that we're doing here. And we look forward to having you in for another session. And we thank you so much for coming today.
Yeah, this was great. I'm so happy we had you here.
And as
Thanks for
always,
having me.
it's your time.
And it's your money.